Hello and welcome to my guide on the author medals for the fall 2022 campaign. These clips are from my first time completing the author medals, so they aren't all perfectly optimized, but they do show you that some of the medals can be quite forgiving. If you want to skip to a particular map, I will put chapter markers in the description, so feel free to skip around if you need to. Now before we begin, I would just like to point out that I have cam 1 and 2 down to Q and E in my settings. This allows me to change easily between the different camera views, which will come in handy later. You don't need to do it, but I do recommend that you try it. Alright, starting with track 1, it's pretty easy. It is the first map of the campaign. Pretty much just drive straight and turn smoothly. Over the jump, try to line it up so that you land in the middle of the checkpoint. That'll give you the best lineup for the next corner. Now, at this point, you'll want to take the turn and aim for that green tree in the middle there. That'll line you up for the exit of the curve, and cutting across the penalty sand is the way to do it. Try not to steal while you're on there because it will slow you down. I did a little bit just because I messed up the entry, but it's otherwise pretty straightforward. Just like track 1, track 2 is pretty straightforward. Most of these first set are. On this first turn you'll want to take it close to the inside. That gives you a better line up here, quick left right. And on your way through the loop you'll then want to come out on the left hand side. That gives you a better line up jump into the bobsleigh here. I still didn't do a particularly good job of that, but it was enough for author. Track 3, we get some sausage blocks for the first time this campaign. While on these you'll want to minimise airtime when you're transitioning over the top of them, so take it easy on that. Over this jump try to stay to the outside, that'll give you a better turn around here. And then a small drift up the hill. Again, I jumped. You probably shouldn't do that, but I still managed to get the author here. And then around this curve you'll want to stick to the outside, get a clean run up to the finish. Track 4, it's a full speed map, so there's not really a lot that I can say that'll help. Just keep accelerating, take the turns smoothly, try to air brake and keep the car flat over the jump so that you don't land funny. Now there is potentially a point where you will pass 600 speed, which will cause the car to auto slide, so just be aware of that and try to keep it under control. On the jump, aim for the middle early so that you don't drift to either side, and just send it to the finish. Track 5, we've got some plastic coming in on this one now. Take the turns nice and gently, try not to turn any more than you absolutely have to make the corners, and just let the plastic slides carry the car around. It's pretty straightforward. It may take a couple of tries, it took me a couple, but smooth transfers, gentle steering, and you should pretty much get it. Track 6, we're starting off with some more sausage blocks, so again try to avoid any airtime. Going inside outside there is a great way to get a bit of speed coming into this first corner, where you'll want to take a very gentle turn, otherwise you will gear down and lose a lot of the speed that you built up. Over this section here as well you'll also want to try and avoid airtime on that transition. Once again, these are very early runs that I was doing. It was still enough for author, but just try to keep it under control. Alright, on this track, a quick release while you're in the air here will bring the car down just a little bit earlier and allow you to carry some of that speed a bit better through the next set of corners. After this reactor boost there is a gentle transition that you'll want to again try to avoid airtime. You can see that coming up here. Just keep it under control, jump a little bit to the right so that you don't hit the checkpoint, and then around the corner. Now this is our first instance of changing the camera. There's no forced camera perspective as you come up into this wall ride, so if you change the camera view that makes it a lot easier to hit that target. So the first few turns here are pretty basic. I'm not going to sort of explain anything because you just watch the video and you'll see it. As you come through into the transition here, you will want to take a small jump so that you start drifting and carry that all the way through. Small release to cancel the drift and then up into the transition there. You will need to drift again there to make it around, and then once you've got the reactor boost you can just full steer send it and then line yourself up to finish. This map's a little bit trickier. For the most part it's just going around and sending over the jumps, but as you can see with the walls there, it is a little bit tricky to know what's coming next. I would recommend just playing the map a few times and just sort of getting the idea of where you're going, since you can never really see where the next turn is coming from. Now after we go through this little segment here, you want to stay to the left because there is a drop down. If you don't take that transition smoothly, you will hit the wall. Track 10 starts off easy enough underwater with the reactor boost, but there is a little trick coming up. This is a reactor reset bounce. Now, if you have the car turned at all here, you will start drifting. You want to land absolutely straight, otherwise you lose all your speed, and that's pretty much the run over. Now through this turnaround again, smooth transitions are the name of the game. I mess it up on the exit here. Ideally you won't do that little jump, but it was still enough to get the author time. Then just a nice turn into the bobsleigh, let it carry around, and away you go. Unfortunately, I have no tips here for track 11. I struggled horribly with this one. It was my 21st author medal, and it's only in the blue tracks, so that gives you an idea of just how hard it can be. Really the only thing you can do is just keep trying, minimize that transition there, and that should give you the speed you need to carry through the rest of the map, but really it's just a matter of doing it. This is a sausage tech map, so it can take a few tries if you're not particularly confident with either of those. A small turn into the inside there gives you a better line up through that first corner, and then you do a gentle drift through here. You want that speed to carry all the way through to the next jump so you can land smoothly down in the middle. If you go to the sides, you'll hit one of those blocks. Drifting through there and extending it with the brake gives you a better line up onto this one, and that's just a small drift to get yourself set up here where you want to stay left to avoid the wall. Again, you'll ideally have enough speed to clear that jump all the way. If we drift here, might need to extend it if you're not going fast enough. Just carry up and around, stick to the right hand side with the shortest path through to the finish. Now with this one, a quick release here at that first turn can give you a better line up to get through here. Makes it a much straighter path, and then smoothly up over the hill. As you come around here, you'll want to do a nice tight drift and keep it in. Gives you a better line up through there to the engine off. If you go too wide, then this bit's pretty much impossible to do with any amount of speed, and you will struggle to get all the way to the end in time for the author medal. Now on this downhill again, you can see I changed the camera view there. Otherwise the camera takes too long to follow around, and it's really hard to find where the finish is. Now track 14 is a multi-lap. It's a fairly short one, but don't get too complacent because you can very easily throw a run with a bad second lap. I did a few times. As you can see, I've only got the gold medal there at the moment. When you're coming around to your second lap, aiming to follow your skid marks from the first one is what I found to be the easiest way to clear it. Just aim slightly below them and you'll get a nice smooth transfer. And again, like all the other maps, you want to minimize airtime, so on transitions like this, stick to the outside and bring it in smoothly. This is another map where the smooth transitions are the way to go. Try to stick to the outside as you come out of this segment here. It gives you a smaller jump, and then be ready to drift on this corner as you come up the hill. Now don't be afraid to release the accelerator as you come through there as well. It can be very easy for the car to start to slide, and it can make lining up that next bit quite difficult. And then once you hit the boosters, line it up the middle and just enjoy the ride. Now as we come through the first few corners here, you should be able to full steer pretty much all of them. And try to avoid drifting as we go over there because you will lose speed and you want to carry as much of that as you can through here into the loop. Try to get up into the wall ride as soon as possible and don't steer once you're up there. It'll keep as much speed as you can coming down the other side. Now at this point you will be over 600 speed and start auto sliding, so just be ready for that. And then just another wall ride, a loop, a jump, and then a small turn to the finish. Now this map's where I found the difficulty really started to ramp up, ignoring that blue track earlier. This one may take a few tries, as landing these transitions smoothly is absolutely critical. On most maps it's recommended, but as you saw I was still getting authors with bad ones. On this one they need to be perfect or you're going to have a hell of a time. Now on this turnaround you want to have a shallow angle as you hit it, otherwise it will over-rotate the car and then all of your speed is gone and you'll just have to restart the run. When you come down the ramp after this jump, try to move over to the left so that you can full steer through into this next corner here. You don't want to drift because you'll lose too much time. Now we're coming up to the finish here, so I changed the camera really early. Going through this bit, you want to bounce off the roof as late as possible. If you bounce too early, you're just going to shoot the car under the finish and you're just going to miss it every time. Now on this map, you shouldn't be afraid of releasing the accelerator. A lot of the corners are actually a lot easier if you do. Now for this first one, you want to be in third gear by this checkpoint at the absolute latest, or you're not going to have enough speed to get that jump cleaned. Another important gear here, you want to be in fourth gear by the time you get to that checkpoint. The sooner you can be, the better. You'll see here I actually lose quite a bit of time to my previous personal best, and that's because I had fourth gear all the way from landing the jump, instead of this one where I got it a bit later, but I very quickly made back the time. Again, you can see I'm releasing the accelerator quite a bit. You can really do that quite a bit with this track and still get the time. Obviously the more you're holding it and accelerating the better, but don't be afraid to let go. Alright, we're starting off with a nice slide here. Now you want to come out of this as straight as possible so that you're not sliding too much. You are coming onto grass, so there'll be some sliding anyway, but maintain the speed as best you can. Don't be afraid to release coming down that corner either, because you will have too much speed to carry through. Now this corner can be taken either as a slide or treated like a bobsleigh. There's videos out there of people doing both. I'm just more comfortable with the ice slide, so that's the way that I did it. Again, an ice slide here to build up speed, and then bringing the car around straight for the jump down the hill. Now as you come here, make sure you leave room to get around that tree and still line it up for the finish. Right, this is another map where smooth transitions are the way to go. I don't really have a lot else to add for this one. It's a fairly self-explanatory map and it's just going to take a few tries to get through it all. Have a look at it, see if you can find any better lines than what I've used here. I'm sure they're out there, and I'd like to see them so that I can try and get a better time as well, because I'm not particularly happy with this run. we're starting off in Cam 2 here on track 21. Just because the road's at an angle, it makes it a bit easier to line up and keep the car sort of in view as we're going down the hill. Now you will want to jump into a drift on that one, but bring it out pretty quickly, otherwise you're going to go too far. Then another drift up the hill, keep it tight, and a smooth transition down there. Now as we come around the corner into this loop, you're going to want to land with at least 260 speed, but the more speed you've got, the better. In my opinion and experience, anything less than 260 just wasn't enough when you got around the loop, and you're better off just abandoning the run and starting again, because you're going to lose way too much time through this next set of checkpoints. And again, as you come through these parts, smooth transfers is the way to go. Going in low through that checkpoint and coming up quickly is the best way to line up that curve, I found. And it also means that you keep the wheels on the ground, keep accelerating for longer. Alright, now get comfortable because you're going to be doing this one a lot. Just send it onto that pipe. You're going to have a lot of runs that you just fly off. There's not really a great way to do it apart from just keep sending it until you get a good run over the pipe. The rest of the map is fairly straightforward, but if you don't get a decent start there, then you don't have the speed you need to carry through the rest of it. Now on that jump it's better to land higher rather than low, otherwise you are going to miss that turn. And on this part, you don't have to do the bug slide that I do here, but it does make the rest of the track a lot easier. If you're not already familiar with how to do a bug slide, Virtual has a great video on it in his video called 5 Most Essential Trackmania Skills to Learn as a Beginner. Now as we come here onto the sausage blocks, stay to the left. If you go to the right, you'll see there's a wall there and you will just hit it. There's no way over it, you have to go to the left. Coming through this engine off section, you should be able to take all those corners without braking. If you are braking, you're going to need to do some more practice because you're just not going to have the speed to carry it through. Now as you come out of the dirt section here, you want to stick to the left as it will line you up better to get through here with as little turning as possible. You may have to release on your way down here or you'll just carry the speed through into the wall and that doesn't help anybody. On the plastic turn, take it up high and wide and then you get the more speed down that hill there. And it also means that you can keep the gear easier and not lose it. Now with this ice loop, it is super important that you don't spin out. You can see there that I almost did. But if you spin out, you're just not going to have the speed coming into that bobsleigh turn there. And then you've got the hill where you do need the speed to carry it up, otherwise it's just never going to work. And then just send an ice slide down here, aim for the finish, and you'll be sweet. Right, this map has a lot of ice, so now is the time to get comfortable with it and do some practice if you haven't. For the most part, the author metal is actually fairly forgiving, but you do need to at least be semi-competent on ice. Now as you can see, I am losing a bit of time to my previous personal best. This corner here in particular, you can make up a lot of time. You want to exit the slide high so you minimise the amount of time that you spend driving uphill. The higher you can exit, the more time you'll save. You can see I'm cutting off about a tenth every checkpoint there. Now on this corner you will want to drift. This is probably the only turn here that I would recommend drifting. And that just gets you around that corner a bit easier, but I did lose a little bit of time there. Right, the final map. On this one, today I decided to do a bit of a showcase of all of the special blocks. So there is a lot of stuff happening here all at once. Just keep it smooth, keep practicing, You'll get it eventually, but it will take some time. Now, coming out of this ice slide in particular, you want to hold it as long as you can to get as much speed as possible, because we've got a big engine off section where you do have to drift a little bit. Setting up left on that nose steer means you hit that reset block a little earlier, and it makes this section a lot easier. You'll want to drift early, otherwise you'll end up going off the side of the map, and then go out wide as you go over the cruise control so you can take that turn with as minimal braking as possible. And there we have it. That's every author medal for the fall 2022 campaign. I hope this video helps you out a little bit. I'm not a professional, but this just shows you that anybody can do it if you just spend a bit of time. Feel free to drop a like, a comment, or subscribe if you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.